Steven Seagal sits alone on a weathered wooden bench in New Orleans City Park, dressed in simple, worn clothing that makes him blend into the background like any other passerby. He wears a faded black jacket with frayed cuffs, old blue jeans that have seen better days, and a dark baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. There's no entourage surrounding him, no bodyguards standing nearby, no cameras following his every move. Just a solitary man watching the golden sunset cast long shadows across the lakefront walking path, lost in his own thoughts. The park is quiet at this hour, with only a few joggers and dog walkers scattered across the wide green spaces. Spanish moss hangs from ancient oak trees, swaying gently in the warm evening breeze. The air smells faintly of magnolia, and the distant scent of Cajun spices drifting from a food vendor's cart somewhere beyond the tree line. Nearby, about 30 feet away near the edge of the parking lot, a group of 4 young men in their 20s notice him sitting there. They're loud and restless, their voices carrying across the empty spaces between the trees. They're dressed in streetwear, baggy jeans, oversized hoodies, and expensive sneakers that look brand new. Their energy is agitated, like they're looking for something to do, someone to mess with, trouble to find. One of them, Deshaun, a lean guy with cornrows and a gold chain glinting around his neck, nudges his friend hard in the ribs and nods toward Steven with a smirk playing across his lips. Yo, check out this dude over there. Looks like he ain't got nowhere to go. Probably homeless or something. His friend snickers, and the idea takes root in the group like a spark catching dry kindling. They exchange glances, communicating without words, and slowly begin to approach the bench where Steven sits completely still, seemingly unaware of their presence. They approach slowly at first, their footsteps deliberate, testing the waters. One of them, a stocky guy with a scraggly beard, sits down right next to Steven on the bench, invading his personal space without asking permission. Another stands directly behind the bench, looming over Steven's shoulder. A third positions himself to the left, blocking any easy exit. The fourth hangs back slightly, watching, ready to jump in if needed. The tension in the air becomes immediate and thick, like the atmosphere before a thunderstorm. "Hey, old man, you lost or something?" The one sitting next to him says with a mocking grin, his voice dripping with condescension. Steven doesn't respond. He stays perfectly calm, his eyes still forward, breathing slow and controlled, as if he hasn't even heard the question. The leader of the group, Marcus, a tall, muscular guy with tattoos crawling up both arms and a scar cutting through his left eyebrow, leans in closer, his face now just inches from Steven's profile.
"I'm talking to you? You did."
Still nothing. Steven remains motionless, statue-like. Marcus laughs, a harsh sound that echoes in the quiet park. Maybe he's got money, though. Old guy's always got cash tucked away somewhere. Let's find out. One of them reaches toward Steven's jacket pocket, his fingers outstretched and greedy. And that's when everything changes. Steven's hand moves, fast as a striking snake, precise as a surgeon's scalpel, controlled like a master craftsman. He catches the guy's wrist mid, reach his grip firm but not crushing, and twists it just enough to make him wince and freeze completely in place. Trapped. I wouldn't do that. Steven says quietly, his voice like gravel rolling over stone, low and calm but carrying unmistakable authority. The group pauses. Something in his tone, something deep and dangerous, makes them hesitate instinctively, their bravado faltering for just a moment. What happened in the next 30 seconds made them realize they just made the biggest mistake of their lives. Marcus takes a half step back, his eyes narrowing as he tries to read the situation, but he's trying to save face in front of his crew. He can't afford to look weak, not here, not now, not in front of his boys. He forces a laugh, loud and theatrical, but there's a flicker of doubt dancing in his eyes that he can't quite hide. "Oh, so you think you're tough, huh? You some kind of martial artist or something? You think you're Bruce Lee?" Marcus says, his voice rising, trying to reclaim control of the moment through volume and bravado. Steven releases the guy's wrist slowly, deliberately, and returns to his calm posture on the bench. His hands rest loosely on his knees, his shoulders relaxed, his breathing even and measured. He doesn't look at Marcus directly, but his awareness of everything around him is absolute. "I'm just a man sitting on a bench," Steven says evenly, his tone carrying no threat but also no fear. "I suggest you move along. Find something else to do with your evening." But Marcus isn't backing down. His pride has been hurt, pricked like a balloon, and in front of his friends that wound feels much bigger than it actually is. He can't just walk away now. That would be admitting defeat, admitting weakness. and that's not something he's willing to do. He signals to his friends with a quick jerk of his head, and they slowly start to circle the bench like wolves surrounding cornered prey. One moves to Steven's left, another to his right. The stocky one stands up from the bench and positions himself directly in front. Marcus stays where he is, creating a box around Steven with no easy escape route. A jogger in bright yellow running gear slows down nearby, about 20 feet away, sensing the tension in the air, like electricity before lightning strikes. His pace drops from a run to a cautious walk, his head turning to watch what's unfolding. A couple walking their golden retriever stops on the path about 30 yards away, the woman's hand instinctively tightening on her husband's arm. The dog sits obediently, sensing its owner's sudden alertness. The husband pulls out his phone from his jacket pocket and starts recording, the small red light indicating the camera is live. Another person, a middle-aged woman in a floral dress carrying shopping bags, freezes near a nearby tree, her eyes wide, unsure whether to intervene or run. "Look, we don't want any trouble," Steven says, his voice still even, still calm, still carrying that quiet authority that comes from decades of discipline and training. "But if you push this, you're going to regret it. I'm giving you one chance to walk away." Deshawn laughs, a nervous sound that's meant to be mocking but comes out slightly hollow. "Man, who do you think you are? You think you scare us? There's 4 of us and 1 of you, old man." Steven doesn't answer immediately. He just shifts his weight slightly on the bench, adjusting his position in a way that seems casual to the untrained eye, but is actually calculated and purposeful. He plants his feet flat on the ground, shoulder width apart. His center of gravity lowers imperceptibly. His hands remain loose but ready. Those who know martial arts, who have studied combat and movement, would recognize the stance immediately. Grounded, ready, efficient, like a coiled spring waiting for the precise moment to release its energy. Marcus takes another step closer, now standing directly in front of Steven, towering over him, using his height advantage to try to intimidate. His shadow falls across Steven's face, blocking the fading sunlight. "You really think you can take all 4 of us?" Marcus asks, his voice challenging, almost taunting, his chest puffed out with false confidence. Steven looks up at him now, meeting his eyes for the first time. The gaze is steady, unwavering, completely devoid of fear or anger. It's the look of someone who has been in countless fights, countless dangerous situations, and has come out the other side every single time. It's the look of absolute certainty. "I don't think," Steven says quietly, each word measured and deliberate. "I know." The air goes cold despite the warm Louisiana evening. The temperature seems to drop 10 degrees in an instant. Even the breeze seems to pause, holding its breath. The confidence in Marcus's eyes wavers for just a fraction of a second. Something primal in his brain, some ancient survival instinct, is screaming at him that he's made a terrible miscalculation, that this situation is not what it appears to be, that the man sitting on this bench is far more dangerous than his worn clothing and quiet demeanor suggest. But pride is a powerful drug, and Marcus is already too committed to back down now. His reputation is on the line. His crew is watching. He's gone too far to turn back. One of the guys positioned behind the bench, the one with the scraggly beard, makes the first move, lunging forward quickly to grab Steven's shoulder from behind, trying to pin him down, trying to control him before he can react. It's the spark that ignites the powder keg. Have you ever witnessed a moment where someone stayed calm under pressure and completely turned the situation around? Drop a comment below and tell us about it. Also, let us know which country and city you're watching from. We love hearing from our global audience. What happens next is almost too fast for the human eye to follow, a blur of controlled motion that seems to defy the laws of physics and the expectations of everyone watching. Steven rises from the bench in one smooth, fluid motion, like water flowing uphill, like a dancer executing a perfectly choreographed move. There's no wasted movement, no hesitation, no uncertainty. Every muscle, every joint, every fiber of his being moves with the precision of a Swiss watch. The guy lunging at him from behind, the one with the scraggly beard, who thought he could grab Steven's shoulder and pin him down, suddenly finds himself completely off balance. Steven doesn't resist the grab. Instead, he accepts the momentum, redirects it, and uses the attacker's own force against him. In a move that looks almost gentle, almost effortless, Steven pivots his body, drops his shoulder, and guides the attacker's trajectory in a wide arc. The man goes airborne for a split second, his feet leaving the ground, his arms flailing uselessly, his face registering pure shock and confusion. Then he comes down hard, flipped completely over Steven's shoulder, landing on the grass with a heavy thud that echoes across the park like a bass drum being struck. The impact knocks the wind completely out of his lungs, and he lies there gasping, struggling to remember how to breathe. The small crowd that has been forming gasps collectively, a sharp intake of breath from a dozen mouths simultaneously. Phones come out of pockets and purses like wildflowers blooming in fast forward. Everyone wants to capture this moment, to record what's happening, to have proof of what they're witnessing. Marcus, seeing his friend go down, reacts on pure instinct and anger rather than strategy or intelligence. His face contorts with rage, his pride wounded even deeper now. He swings a wild haymaker punch at Steven's head, putting all his weight and strength behind it. The kind of punch that could knock someone unconscious if it connected. The kind of punch thrown in street fights and bar brawls by people who've never had proper training. But it never connects. Steven sidesteps the punch effortlessly, his movement minimal and economical, like he's simply stepping aside to let someone pass on a sidewalk. The fist whooshes past his ear, missing by inches. Marcus's own momentum carries him forward. Off balance, stumbling, vulnerable, Steven doesn't strike back with a punch or a kick. Instead, he does something far more elegant and far more devastating. He reaches out with both hands, catches Marcus's extended arm at the wrist and elbow, and uses the attacker's own forward momentum against him, redirecting the energy like a river changing course. Marcus suddenly finds himself stumbling sideways, unable to stop his own motion, his feet tangling with each other. He crashes directly into Deshawn, who had been circling around to attack from the side. The two of them collide with a sickening crunch of body against body, limbs tangling together like dropped marionettes, and both go down in a heap on the ground, cursing and trying to separate themselves from each other. The fourth guy, the one who had been hanging back slightly, freezes completely. His eyes are wide, his mouth hanging open, his hands raised in front of him defensively. He's suddenly realizing with crystal clarity that this isn't some random homeless old man, that this isn't going to be the easy score they thought it would be, that they've stumbled into something way over their heads. Steven doesn't chase them. He doesn't kick them while they're down. He doesn't taunt them or gloat or celebrate. He simply stands there in the space between the bench and the fallen attackers, his breathing steady and controlled, his stance relaxed but ready, his hands loose at his sides. He looks like he's just finished a light warm-up exercise rather than defending himself against 4 attackers. "I told you to walk away," he says calmly, his voice carrying across the park clearly despite not being raised at all. "I gave you the chance." Marcus scrambles to his feet, his jeans now stained with grass and dirt, his expensive hoodie disheveled and twisted around his torso. His face is a mask of fury and embarrassment, a dangerous combination. He's breathing hard, his chest heaving, his fists clenched so tight his knuckles have turned white. "Who the hell are you?" Marcus shouts, spittle flying from his lips, his voice cracking slightly with a mixture of anger and something that might be fear. Steven adjusts his baseball cap, pushing it up slightly so his eyes are more visible. "Just someone who's been doing this a long time," he says simply without arrogance, just stating a fact. A woman in the growing crowd, now numbering at least 15 people forming a loose semicircle around the scene, shouts in a high, nervous voice, "Call the cops! Someone call the police!" But Marcus isn't done. His ego, his pride, his sense of self won't let him quit, won't let him walk away defeated and humiliated in front of all these witnesses, in front of his crew, in front of strangers who are now recording everything on their phones. He pulls out his own phone from his pocket with shaking hands and starts recording a video, pointing the camera at Steven, trying to flip the narrative, trying to control the story that will be told. "Yo, y'all see this? This dude just attacked us for no reason. We were just walking through the park, just asking him a simple question, and he went crazy. He assaulted us. This is police brutality or something? Somebody's gonna pay for this." The crowd murmurs, confused. Some people who just arrived and didn't see how it started might believe him. Others who witnessed the entire confrontation from the beginning shake their heads, knowing the truth. The confusion creates a ripple of uncertainty through the gathering. Steven stays silent, but his eyes are sharp and alert, watching every move Marcus makes, tracking every member of the group, aware of every person in the crowd, calculating probabilities and potential threats like a computer running complex algorithms. Deshawn gets up slowly, rubbing his shoulder where he hit the ground, wincing with pain. He looks at Marcus, then at Steven, then back at Marcus again. Man, forget this. Let's just go. This ain't worth it, but Marcus won't let it go. He can't. His pride has become a prison he's locked himself inside. Nah, we're pressing charges. This dude assaulted us. Battery, assault, whatever. He's going down for this. A jogger who had been filming the entire incident from the very beginning. A young black man in his 30s, wearing a fitness tracker and wireless earbuds, steps forward from the edge of the crowd. His voice is clear and confident. I got the whole thing on video. From the start. You guys surrounded him first. You tried to rob him. He only defended himself. I got every second of it. Marcus's face hardens like concrete setting. He realizes he's losing control of the situation, that the narrative is slipping through his fingers like sand. His jaw clenches. His eyes dart around, looking for support, looking for allies, finding none. Then, from the edge of the park near the parking lot, a black and white police car pulls up, its presence announced by the crunch of gravel under tires. The red and blue lights aren't flashing yet, but the mere presence of the vehicle changes the entire dynamic of the scene. Two officers step out of the patrol car, with the practiced efficiency of people who have done this routine thousands of times before. The doors close with synchronized thuds that echo across the now silent park. Officer Ramirez emerges from the driver's side, a veteran cop in his mid-40s with graying hair at his temples, a thick mustache, and the kind of weathered face that speaks of 2 decades walking the streets of New Orleans. His uniform is crisp and pressed, his badge gleaming in the fading sunlight. He moves with the confident, measured pace of someone who has seen every type of situation imaginable and knows not to rush to judgment. Officer Kim steps out from the passenger side, younger, maybe late 20s, with sharp eyes behind wire, rimmed glasses and a notebook already in hand. She's more cautious, newer to the job, still learning to read situations before they explode. Her hand rests near her radio, ready to call for backup if needed. Marcus immediately breaks away from his group and runs toward them, pointing dramatically at Steven with his whole arm extended, his voice rising to a pitch that borders on hysteria.
Officers! Officers, thank God you're here! That man over there just attacked us!
We were just walking through the park, minding our own business,
and he went absolutely crazy on us. He's violent. He's dangerous.
You gotta arrest him right now before he hurts someone else. Officer Ramirez raises one hand slowly, a gesture that says slow down without him having to speak a word. He approaches the scene with deliberate steps, his eyes scanning everything, the scattered group of young men, some with dirt and grass stains on their clothes, the crowd of bystanders with their phones out, and one older man standing calmly by the bench, his posture relaxed, his hands visible and non-threatening, looking like the calmest person in the entire park. All right, everybody calm down, Ramirez says in a voice that carries authority without aggression, the voice of someone used to de-escalating tense situations. What happened here? One person at a time. Marcus doesn't wait for permission. He talks fast, the words tumbling out of his mouth like water from a broken dam, spinning the story to paint himself and his friends as innocent victims. We were just passing through the park, right? Just taking a walk, enjoying the evening. We saw this old dude sitting on the bench looking lost, or confused or something, so we approached him. Just being good Samaritans. Asked if he needed help, if he was okay, if he knew where he was. And out of nowhere, man, he just flipped out, started throwing us around like we were rag dolls. Look at my boy over there. He can barely breathe. This guy knows martial arts or something, and he used it to assault innocent people. He's dangerous, officer. Seriously dangerous. You gotta arrest him before he does this to someone else. Maybe some kid or some elderly person who can't defend themselves. Steven stands quietly about 10 feet away, his hands at his sides where they're clearly visible, his posture non-threatening. He doesn't interrupt, doesn't protest, doesn't try to defend himself verbally. He simply waits, patient and calm, like a man who has been through interrogations and confrontations before, and knows that the truth has a way of revealing itself. Officer Kim looks past Marcus toward the crowd that has formed, her trained eyes noting the number of witnesses, the number of phones that have been recording. She pulls out her own notepad and pen. Did anyone else see what happened here? She asks clearly, projecting her voice so everyone within 50 feet can hear her. Several hands go up. A few people start talking at once, creating a cacophony of overlapping voices. The jogger who had been filming from the beginning steps forward, separating himself from the crowd. He's a professional-looking man, well-spoken, the kind of witness any cop would want, credible, clear, and calm. "I did, officer. I saw the whole thing. I recorded it too, from start to finish," he says, holding up his phone as evidence. Marcus's eyes widen, and he snaps defensively, pointing at the jogger with an accusatory finger.
That's a lie. He's lying. He probably knows that guy or something. They're probably friends. Show them the video then.
Show them the truth. The jogger doesn't rise to the bait. He remains calm, his voice steady. "I don't know that man at all. I've never seen him before in my life. But I know what I saw, and I know what my camera recorded." He unlocks his phone with a swipe of his thumb, opens the video app, and pulls up the footage. The screen glows brightly in the gathering dusk. Officer Ramirez steps closer, his eyes fixed on the small screen. Officer Kim moves to his side, both of them watching carefully as the jogger hits play. The video is crystal clear, the audio surprisingly good despite the distance. It shows the entire sequence of events in undeniable detail. The 4 young men approaching the bench where Steven sits alone, circling him deliberately. One sitting down next to him uninvited, Marcus getting in his face. The moment when one of them reaches toward Steven's pocket with clear intent, and Steven's defensive response, that only comes after he's been physically touched. The video shows Steven's restraint, how he only acted when directly threatened, how he controlled each attacker without inflicting serious injury, how he stopped the moment the threat was neutralized. The audio captures Marcus's taunts, his threats, his aggressive language. Officer Ramirez watches the entire 2-minute clip without interruption, his expression unchanging but his eyes absorbing every detail like a sponge soaking up water. When it ends, he looks up at the jogger. "Can you send that to me? I'll give you my email." "Absolutely, officer." The jogger replies, already opening his email app. Ramirez then turns slowly toward Steven, his demeanor shifting from investigative to something more respectful. "Sir, can I see some identification, please?" Steven nods once, a small gesture of acknowledgement. He reaches slowly and deliberately into the inner pocket of his worn jacket, moving with exaggerated care, so there's no possibility of his movements being misinterpreted as threatening. His fingers locate his wallet, a simple black leather bifold that has seen better years, and he pulls it out carefully. He opens the wallet, extracts his driver's license from its clear plastic sleeve, and extends it toward Officer Ramirez with a steady hand. Ramirez takes the license, glances down at it casually, and then he freezes. His eyes lock onto the name printed on the card. His head snaps up looking at Steven's face, then back down at the license, then back up at Steven again, as if he can't quite believe what he's seeing, as if his brain is struggling to connect the pieces of information in front of him. "Wait," Ramirez says slowly, his voice dropping to almost a whisper. Steven Seagal. The park, which had been buzzing with murmured conversations and shuffled footsteps, goes completely silent. You could hear a pin drop on grass. Marcus's face drains of color like someone pulled a plug and let all the blood drain out. His mouth opens and closes several times, but no sound comes out. His eyes dart between the officer and Steven, wide with dawning horror. Deshawn takes several steps backward, shaking his head slowly in disbelief, his hand coming up to cover his mouth. The guy with the scraggly beard, still sitting on the ground trying to catch his breath fully, lets out a groan that sounds like a wounded animal. Officer Kim steps closer, confused, her eyebrows knitting together. "Woo," she asks her partner, genuinely not understanding the significance. Ramirez looks at her with an expression that's somewhere between disbelief and amusement. "You don't know who Steven Seagal is?" He gestures toward Steven with the license still in his hand. "He's a martial artist, a legitimate 7th Dan black belt in Aikido, an action movie star from the 80s and 90s. And he's worked with law enforcement agencies for decades. He's been a reserve deputy, done ride-alongs, trained officers in defensive tactics. This man is a living legend." The crowd starts whispering frantically, a wave of recognition rippling through the gathered people like electricity. Phones come out again, but this time not to record a fight, to Google the name, to confirm what they're hearing to see if it's really true. "Oh my God." Someone in the crowd whispers loudly enough to be heard. "It's really him. Steven Seagal. I just Googled it. No way." Another voice says, "That's insane. They tried to rob Steven Seagal." A teenage girl says to her friend, her voice incredulous. "Are they stupid?" Marcus backs up slowly, his whole body language changing from aggressive to defensive, his hands coming up in front of him not in threat but in surrender. He's shaking his head repeatedly, his voice coming out in a stammer. Nah, man, we didn't know. We had no idea who he was. We thought. His voice trails off because there's nothing he can say that will make this better. Steven remains exactly as he was, calm, unbothered by the recognition, showing no signs of ego or self-importance. He simply exists in the moment, patient and present. Officer Ramirez hands the license back to Steven with a gesture that borders on reverent, treating it like a sacred object rather than a piece of plastic. Mr. Seagal, I apologize for the confusion, sir. I need to ask, are you injured in any way? Do you need medical attention? And do you want to press charges against these individuals? The question hangs in the air like smoke, heavy with implications. Everyone waits for Steven's answer, the entire park holding its collective breath. Steven looks at the 4 young men standing before him, Marcus with his face pale and drawn, Deshawn backing away slowly with guilt written across his features, the stocky guy with the scraggly beard still catching his breath on the ground, and the 4th member frozen in place like a statue. He studies them for a long moment, his dark eyes reading them the way a master reads a book, seeing past the bravado and the street posturing to the fear and regret underneath. He shakes his head slowly, deliberately. No charges, he says quietly but firmly. They made a mistake, a serious mistake. But everyone deserves the chance to learn from their mistakes. Let them learn from this one. Officer Ramirez nods slowly, clearly impressed by the response, by the grace being shown in a situation where most people would be demanding justice, retribution, consequences. He turns toward Marcus and his crew, and his expression hardens into something more severe, more authoritative. You guys are lucky. Ramirez says, his voice carrying the weight of absolute truth. Very, very lucky. If Mr. Seagal wanted to press charges against you, you'd be looking at attempted robbery, assault and battery, conspiracy to commit a felony, and creating a public disturbance. And with this many witnesses, with multiple videos from different angles showing exactly what happened, you wouldn't have a case. You wouldn't have a defense. You'd be going to jail, and you'd be staying there for a while. Do you understand how fortunate you are right now? Marcus swallows hard, his Adam's apple bobbing visibly in his throat. Yes, sir, he whispers, his earlier aggression completely evaporated, replaced by the voice of a child being scolded. Yes, sir. Deshawn echoes, his voice barely audible. Officer Kim writes something in her notebook, her pen scratching against the paper with sharp, precise strokes. We're documenting this incident in our system, she says, looking up at the 4 men with a stern expression. If any of you show up in another situation like this, if we get called to another scene where you're involved in threatening or assaulting someone, this report will be part of your record. The leniency you're receiving today won't be offered twice. Ramirez continues, stepping closer to the group, his presence commanding their full attention. I'm letting you go with a warning. But if I see you pull something like this again, if any officer in this city catches you trying to intimidate, threaten, or rob someone, you're done. No second chances. No warnings. You'll be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Is that understood? Yes, sir. They mumble in unison, a chorus of chastened voices, heads bowed, unable to meet his eyes. Steven takes a step forward, drawing everyone's attention back to him. He doesn't move aggressively or quickly, but there's something about his presence that commands the space, that makes people listen without him having to raise his voice. You want to know why you lost today? Steven asks, his voice quiet but penetrating, cutting through the evening air like a blade. The 4 young men look up, surprised that he's addressing them directly, that he's choosing to speak to them at all after what they tried to do. Marcus nods slowly, genuine curiosity mixing with his shame.
Yeah, I do.
Steven's gaze moves across each of their faces, making eye contact with each one individually, holding it for a moment before moving to the next. It's not because I'm famous, he says slowly, each word chosen with care. It's not because I know martial arts. It's not because I'm stronger or faster or more skilled than you are. He pauses, letting the words sink in, creating space for them to wonder what he's going to say next. It's because you chose to be predators instead of protectors. Steven continues, his voice taking on a quality that's almost paternal, almost like a teacher addressing students who have failed an important test. You saw someone you thought was weak, someone you thought was vulnerable, someone who couldn't defend himself, and you decided to take advantage of that. You decided that his vulnerability was your opportunity, That's a losing strategy in life. That's the path that leads to prison, or the hospital, or worse. His words cut deep, deeper than any physical technique he used during the confrontation. Even the crowd watching is silent, absorbing the weight of what he's saying, feeling the truth of it resonating in their own experiences. Deshawn's eyes are glistening, moisture gathering at the corners. He blinks rapidly, trying to hold back tears. I never thought about it like that, he admits, his voice cracking slightly. Steven nods, acknowledging the admission. Strength isn't about how hard you can hit someone, he says, his tone softer now, more compassionate. It's not about how much fear you can create or how many people you can intimidate. Real strength is about discipline. It's about how much control you have over yourself, over your emotions, over your impulses. It's about respect, respecting yourself enough to make good choices, and respecting others enough to treat them with dignity regardless of who they are or what they look like. He gestures toward the bench where he had been sitting peacefully before all this started. Strength is about how you treat people when you think no one's watching, when there are no cameras, when there are no consequences. That's when your true character shows. That's when you find out who you really are. Marcus swallows hard, his eyes fixed on the ground, unable to meet Steven's gaze. When he finally speaks, his voice is small, stripped of all its earlier bravado. I hear you, man. I really do. I'm sorry. I'm really, genuinely sorry for what we tried to do to you. Steven studies him for a moment, measuring the sincerity of the apology, looking for signs of genuine remorse versus empty words meant to escape punishment. Whatever he sees seems to satisfy him because he nods slowly. Good, Steven says simply. Then take that lesson and do something better with your life. You're young. You still have time to choose a different path. But you have to choose it. Nobody can do it for you. The scraggly, bearded guy finally manages to get to his feet, still holding his ribs where he hit the ground. He looks at Steven with something approaching awe mixed with fear. How did you do that? He asks, genuine curiosity in his voice. How did you move that fast? How did you throw me without even looking like you were trying? Steven almost smiles, just the ghost of expression at the corner of his mouth. 40 years of training, 40 years of discipline, 40 years of practicing the same movements thousands and thousands of times until they become instinct. There's no shortcut. There's no secret technique. There's only dedication and time. Officer Ramirez gestures toward the parking lot exit with his hand. All right, get out of here. All of you. Go home. Think about what happened here today. Think about what Mr. Seagal just told you, and make better choices tomorrow than you made today. The four men nod, murmuring thanks that sound awkward and insufficient given the circumstances. They begin to walk away slowly, heads down, shoulders slumped, looking nothing like the confident, aggressive group that had approached the bench 20 minutes earlier. As they reach the edge of the park, Marcus stops and turns back. Mr. Seagal. He calls out, his voice carrying across the distance. Steven looks at him waiting. Thank you, Marcus says, and the sincerity in those two words is unmistakable. Thank you for giving us another chance. Steven nods once, a simple acknowledgement, and Marcus turns away, disappearing into the parking lot with his friends. As the would-be attackers leave, something unexpected happens. The crowd begins to clap. It starts slowly, at first one person, then two, then five. Then it builds, spreading like wildfire through the gathered witnesses, until nearly everyone is applauding. The sound echoes across the park, a spontaneous expression of appreciation, admiration, and respect. People approach Steven cautiously, respectfully, forming a loose line. They thank him for his restraint, for his wisdom, for the example he set. Several ask for photos, holding up their phones hopefully. Steven obliges a few requests, always polite, always humble, never acting like the celebrity he is. He poses for selfies with a teenage boy who says his father loves Steven's movies, with an elderly woman who says her grandson studies martial arts, with the jogger who recorded everything and potentially saved Steven from false accusations. A teenage girl in a school uniform approaches shyly, clutching her phone nervously. Mr. Seagal, she says quietly, almost whispering. That was amazing. You didn't even hurt them. You could have, but you didn't. Steven smiles gently at her, his expression warm and kind. That's the whole point, he explains, his voice taking on the quality of a teacher sharing an important lesson. Real martial arts isn't about destruction or violence. It's not about hurting people or proving how tough you are. It's about control. It's about ending conflict with the minimum amount of force necessary, about protecting yourself and others without causing unnecessary harm. The goal is always to resolve the situation, not to escalate it. The girl nods enthusiastically, her eyes bright with inspiration. I want to learn martial arts, she says with sudden determination. I want to be able to stay that calm when things get scary. Then find a good teacher, Steven advises. Someone who emphasizes discipline and respect along with technique. The physical skills are important, but the mental and spiritual aspects are even more important. Anyone can learn to throw a punch. Not everyone can learn to control their fear and their ego. Officer Ramirez approaches after the crowd begins to thin, extending his hand for a handshake. Steven takes it and they shake firmly, the grip of mutual respect. It's an honor, sir, Ramirez says earnestly. I grew up watching your films. Under Siege, Hard to Kill, Marked for Death. Never in a million years did I think I'd meet you like this, in the middle of a park incident. Steven chuckles softly, a warm sound. Life's full of surprises, officer. You never know what's going to happen when you walk out your door in the morning. That's the truth. Ramirez agrees, shaking his head in wonder at the strange turn his evening shift has taken. Do you think those young men will actually change after this, or will they go back to their old ways?
Let us know what you think in the comments.
Within an hour of the incident ending, the videos start appearing online like mushrooms sprouting after rain. The jogger who filmed the entire encounter uploads his footage to Twitter first, with a caption that reads, "Just witnessed Steven Seagal defend himself against 4 attackers in City Park, Nala. He didn't press charges. Showed pure class. This is what a real martial artist looks like. Fi respect to Steven Seagal for New Orleans." The tweet gets retweeted 17 times in the first minute, 50 times in 5 minutes, 200 times within 15 minutes. Then it jumps to TikTok, where a teenager who was in the crowd posts a shorter clip set to dramatic music, focusing on the moment Steven flips the first attacker over his shoulder. The video gets 10,000 views in the first hour, 100,000 by the second hour, crossing 1 million views before midnight. Instagram explodes with multiple angles of the same incident. The couple with the dog posted their version. Someone else caught the confrontation from across the lake path, and a delivery driver who had stopped his car to watch uploaded his dash cam footage showing the entire scene from a wide angle. Reddit picks it up next. Multiple subreddits light up simultaneously. Ard justice served, Ard fight porn, Ard public freakout, Ard made mess smile. The comment sections fill with thousands of responses within minutes. The upvotes climbing into the tens of thousands. YouTube Shorts catches fire with compilation videos, reaction videos, breakdowns of the martial arts techniques Steven used. Frame-by-frame analysis of his movements. The headlines write themselves, appearing on entertainment news sites, martial arts blogs, local New Orleans news stations, and eventually national media outlets. Steven Seagal stops attempted robbery with Aikido, refuses to press charges. Martial arts legend teaches real life lesson in New Orleans park. They thought he was just an old man. They picked the wrong target. Actor Steven Seagal shows restraint and wisdom after park confrontation. Viral video: Steven Seagal defends himself against 4 attackers, then shows mercy. The footage of Steven calmly deflecting the attackers with minimal force, combined with the audio of his powerful words afterward about strength, discipline, and respect, resonates with millions of people across the internet. It cuts through the noise of typical viral content because it's real, raw, and carries a message that transcends the incident itself. The comments flood in from every platform, from every corner of the internet, from people of all ages and backgrounds. This is what a real hero looks like. No ego, no unnecessary violence, just pure skill and wisdom. He could have destroyed them but chose mercy instead. That's true strength. Much respect to Steven Seagal. That speech at the end about being protectors instead of predators gave me actual chills. This man is a legend. I've watched this 20 times and I still can't believe how calm he stayed. Never raised his voice, never lost control. The way he handled this should be taught in every self-defense class. Minimum force, maximum effectiveness. My dad was right. Steven Seagal really is a legitimate martial artist. This wasn't Hollywood. This was real. Those guys are so lucky he didn't press charges. They would have been destroyed in court with all this video evidence. News outlets scramble to get statements, to secure interviews, to add context to the viral phenomenon that's dominating social media. Entertainment Tonight, TMZ, Inside Edition, local New Orleans stations. All of them reach out to Steven's representatives, hoping for exclusive comments or appearances. Steven's publicist, A woman named Sandra, who has worked with him for 15 years, is suddenly flooded with requests. Her phone rings constantly. Her email inbox fills with hundreds of messages. Interview requests come from morning shows, podcasts, martial arts magazines, news programs, and even international media from Japan, Brazil, and the UK, but Steven declines almost all of them. He's never been one to seek attention or exploit situations for publicity. That's not who he is, not what he's about. Instead, 3 days after the incident, he releases a simple, dignified statement through his official social media accounts. It's posted simultaneously on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, written in his own words without the polish of a PR team. I was simply defending myself and my right to sit peacefully in a public park. I'm grateful that no one was seriously hurt in the incident. I chose not to press charges because I believe in second chances, and in the capacity of people to learn and grow from their mistakes. I hope the young men involved take this as an opportunity to reflect on their choices and make better decisions going forward. We all make mistakes. What matters most is what we do after we make them. I wish them well on their journey. The statement is retweeted and shared hundreds of thousands of times within the first 24 hours. Major news outlets quote it in their coverage. People screenshot it and post it with their own commentary, praising his grace, his humility, his wisdom. Meanwhile, Marcus, Deshaun, and the others are dealing with their own viral infamy, and it's far less pleasant. Their faces are all over the internet now, captured in dozens of videos from multiple angles. Friends recognize them. Family members see the footage. Former classmates share it. Employers and potential employers discover who they are. The court of public opinion is harsh and unforgiving. Comment sections debate whether they deserve forgiveness or condemnation. Some people call for them to be doxxed, for their names and addresses to be published, for them to face social consequences even if they're avoiding legal ones. Deshaun, who has always been more introspective than the others, feels the weight of it crushing down on him like a physical force. He watches the videos of himself circling Steven with predatory intent, hears his own mocking laughter, sees his own aggressive body language, and feels sick to his stomach. On the 5th day after the incident, sitting alone in his small apartment with the curtains drawn and his phone notifications turned off, because he can't handle the constant barrage of messages and tags, he makes a decision. He records an apology video on his phone. No script, no preparation, just raw honesty. His hands shake as he holds the camera. His voice cracks with genuine emotion. My name is Deshaun Parker, and I'm one of the guys in that video with Steven Seagal. I messed up. Bad. Really, really bad. I let my pride and my anger, and my stupid need to look tough in front of my friends lead me into a situation I had absolutely no business being in. We approached that man with bad intentions. We tried to rob him. We tried to intimidate him. And we were wrong. Completely, totally wrong. He pauses, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand, his composure breaking. Mr. Seagal showed me more grace than I deserved. He could have had us arrested. He could have really hurt us, and he had every right to. But he didn't. He chose mercy. He chose to give us a chance to be better, and I'm not going to waste that chance. I'm going to do better. I have to. I owe it to him. I owe it to my family, and I owe it to myself. If you're watching this and you've ever thought about doing something like what I did, robbing someone, intimidating someone, preying on people you think are weak, don't. It's not worth it. It'll eat you alive. Trust me. The video is raw, unpolished, and painfully honest. He posts it on his own social media accounts, knowing it will probably go viral too, knowing he's opening himself up to more criticism and mockery, but feeling like he has to do it anyway, like it's the only way to start making things right. Within 6 hours, the video has been viewed over 200,000 times. The response is mixed. Some commenters praise his courage in taking accountability. Others say it's too little, too late, that he's only sorry because he got caught, that his apology means nothing without changed behavior over time. But there's a subset of responses that surprises him. Messages from people who say they've made similar mistakes, who appreciate his honesty, who tell him that redemption is possible if he truly commits to it. One comment in particular stands out, posted by an account with only a few hundred followers. I was in prison for armed robbery when I was 19. Got out at 27, been clean for 15 years now. Own a small business, got a family, turned my whole life around. It's possible, brother. But you gotta mean it. You gotta do the work. Good luck. Deshaun reads that comment 5 times, each time feeling something shift inside him. something like hope beginning to grow in the darkness. The story continues to ripple outward, touching lives in unexpected ways, sparking conversations about justice and mercy, about second chances and accountability, about what it really means to be strong. 3 months after the incident that took over the internet and sparked conversations around the world, Steven Seagal quietly returns to New Orleans. No press release announces his arrival. No publicist sends out media alerts. No social media posts hint at what's coming. He arrives on a Tuesday morning on a commercial flight, carrying a single bag, dressed simply in dark clothing, looking like any other traveler moving through Louis Armstrong International Airport. But his destination is specific and purposeful. He's heading to the 9th Ward Community Center, a modest building on a street lined with shotgun houses and corner stores, where a new self-defense and mentorship program is about to have its official launch. A program that Steven quietly funded with a personal donation 3 weeks after the park incident, after being approached by the center's director through a mutual contact. The director, a tireless woman named Miss Claudette, who has run youth programs in the 9th Ward for 22 years, had reached out with a simple, heartfelt proposal. Could the incident be turned into something positive, something lasting? Something that could genuinely change lives in a community that desperately needed positive role models and constructive outlets? Steven had agreed without hesitation and without conditions. No naming rights, no publicity requirements, no media arrangements. Just a check and a promise to show up for the launch. The gym is packed when Steven walks through the door. Kids from the neighborhood fill the folding chairs arranged in rows across the polished wooden floor. Teenagers mostly, some as young as 10, some as old as 19. At-risk youth referred by schools and social workers. Young men and women who need direction, discipline, and someone to believe in their potential. Adults from the community sit along the walls. Parents and neighbors who've heard about the program and want to see what it's all about. Local media cameras are set up near the entrance, but Steven had made one condition clear to Miss Claudette: keep the media presence minimal and respectful. This isn't a publicity event. This is about the people in this room, and in the front row, sitting together in a straight line, their hands folded in their laps, wearing clean clothes and expressions that carry the weight of genuine humility, Marcus, Deshawn, and the other 2 members of the group from the park. They're here, not because anyone required them to be, not because a judge ordered community service, not because cameras are rolling and they want to look good for public opinion. They're here because Deshawn called Marcus the week after his apology video went viral and said simply, "We need to do something real. Something that actually matters. You with me?" And Marcus, stripped of his pride and his posturing, and all the armor he'd built around himself over years of trying to survive in hard circumstances, had said yes. Steven sees them immediately when he walks in. He acknowledges them with a simple nod, direct, respectful, carrying no residual anger or judgment, just recognition, just acknowledgement that they showed up, and that showing up matters. He addresses the room without notes, without a microphone, projecting his voice naturally to reach every corner of the gym. "A lot of you know me from movies." Steven begins, his voice carrying the same quiet authority it always does, the kind that makes people lean in rather than sit back. "Some of you might know me from that video that went around the internet a few months ago, but I'm not here today as a celebrity or as some kind of hero from a viral clip. I'm here as someone who believes, deeply and genuinely, in second chances." He pauses, letting the words settle. Life is going to test every single person in this room. It's going to put you in situations where everything seems designed to make you fail. Poverty, broken systems, people who've written you off before you even had a chance to show them who you really are. Life is going to make you angry. It's going to make you feel like the only power you have is the power to take from others. He looks across the rows of young faces, seeing recognition in many of their eyes. But that's a lie. The most powerful thing you can do in this world is discipline yourself. Control your impulses. Choose your actions instead of just reacting. Anyone can react. A dog reacts. A fire reacts. But a human being, a truly strong human being, chooses. He moves to the center of the floor, his movement fluid and natural. "These young men in the front row made a serious mistake," he says, gesturing toward Marcus and his group without embarrassment or accusation, just simple acknowledgement of truth. But they owned it. They came here today, and that takes more courage than most people will ever understand. Because coming back and facing something you're ashamed of is genuinely hard. Marcus stares at the floor, his jaw tight with emotion. That's what I want to teach here, Steven continues. Not just how to defend your body, but how to defend your character, how to protect your integrity, how to stand up for yourself and others without becoming the thing you're fighting against. He demonstrates the first basic Aikido principle, a simple wrist redirection that uses minimal force to neutralize aggression. He performs it slowly, deliberately, explaining each component. Feel what's happening. He says, you're not fighting the force coming at you. You're redirecting it. You're moving with it instead of against it. That's not just a martial arts principle. That's a life principle. He invites Marcus to the floor as his demonstration partner. Marcus stands up slowly, visibly nervous, aware that every eye in the room is on him. Steven guides him through the movement with patient hands, correcting his posture, adjusting his feet, speaking quietly and encouragingly. Relax your shoulders. Root your feet. Don't try to control what you can't control, just redirect it. Marcus attempts the movement, clumsy at first, then gradually smoother. Better, Steven says simply. Again. They run through it 3 more times, and by the 4th repetition, something changes in Marcus's face. The shame and the tension begin to dissolve, replaced by concentration, by genuine engagement, by the beginning of something that looks like purpose. By the end of the 2-hour session, the energy in the room has shifted completely. It's no longer about a viral video, or a famous face, or an embarrassing incident that played out for the whole internet to see. It's about something real and alive and genuinely hopeful. A local news reporter, kept respectfully to the sidelines during the session, approaches Steven during the informal gathering that follows, where Miss Claudette serves red beans and rice and lemonade, and the kids cluster around Steven asking questions he answers with patience and warmth. Mr. Seagal, what do you hope people take away from everything that's happened, from the incident in the park, from this program, from all of it? Steven considers the question carefully before answering. I hope they see that violence isn't strength, he says finally. I hope they see that compassion is strength, that discipline is strength, that choosing to help instead of harm, that's the hardest and most powerful thing a human being can do. The reporter nods, scribbling notes. And what about the young men who confronted you? Do you really believe they'll change? Steven looks across the room to where Marcus is now helping younger kids learn the basic stance Steven demonstrated, his large hands gentle on a 10-year-old's shoulders, his voice patient and encouraging. He watches for a moment before answering. I've already seen them change, he says quietly. The question isn't whether they'll change. They already have. The question is whether they'll keep going when it gets hard, when nobody's watching, when there's no camera recording it and no crowd applauding. He pauses. That's the real test, and I think they're going to pass it. The camera cuts to Deshaun sitting cross-legged on the gym floor, surrounded by a group of younger teenagers, telling them his story without flinching, without omitting the ugly parts, his voice steady and his eyes clear. Not for redemption points, not for likes or followers or viral attention, but because he has something true and hard-won to offer, and for the first time in a long time, he knows it. What part of Steven's message hit you the hardest today? Was it his words about discipline, his decision to show mercy, or the moment Marcus helped those younger kids? Tell us in the comments. Your answers genuinely help us understand what matters most to our audience.